today we have another Mountains of the Globe video, this time focused on North America. We'll also have some off-camera paper sounds for that enjoyment of studying feeling. So as you may be able to see from the map, the mountain ranges of North America are mostly concentrated over here on the west side of the continent. They form part of the American Cordillera, which is a chain of mountains that make up the western backbone of this continent. And if you can see, they run almost continuously from up here all the way down and through and down to South America and Antarctica. I mentioned a little bit about the Cordilleras in my South American video. So we'll kind of start on the north and west and move our way over. So the main ranges, starting in the north, we'll start in the north, go south, start in the west, go east. But let's start up here first with Alaska. Here it is. So the Alaska Range sits squarely in southeastern Alaska down here. And it runs approximately 650 kilometers or 400 miles from Lake Clark to the White River in the Yukon province. In Canada. Outside of Asia and South America, the Alaska Range is the highest in the world. So it's no surprise that the highest mountain in North America is in it. It's Mount McKinley, also called Denali. I think that's now its official name. And it's 6,190 meters tall, or 20,310 feet. It's an amazing thing to see if you ever get a chance, because it stands out on its own. It can be hard to see because it's often covered in clouds, but I got lucky when I was there, and it was just rising up. It almost felt like it was all by itself. So in addition, a couple more things. There's Mount St. Elias, which is 5,489 meters tall, or 18,008 feet. I keep saying tall, but really high. They're not people. Though it's funny, you can't grow attached to them. And there's also Mount Logan, right over here in Canada. That's 19,550 feet tall, high, or 5,959 meters. So we have the Alaska and Brooks ranges. We can come down, and there's the Pacific Coastal Range. Let me adjust this just a touch. We have the Cascades here in the Sierra Nevadas, which I did a different video on that with a paper map after a trip I took there. So I won't talk too much about them. Then we've got the Rocky Mountains, which go from Canada way up here and stretch down, down, down. They're actually the longest range in North America. And we've got Sierra Madre ranges. Let me see. Down here in Mexico. And the Appalachians over here. So like I said, I'm not going to talk too much about the Sierra Nevadas, but I want to just talk about one kind of interesting thing. So the tallest mountain in this part of the United States, right? The part that's not Alaska or Hawaii, called the contiguous U.S., is Mount Whitney, and it's not on here. I don't know why Death Valley is here at the lowest point, but for some reason Mount Whitney, which I always think is funny. In addition to Mount Whitney, one of the highlights of the Sierras is Lake Tahoe. Lake Tahoe is the largest alpine lake in the U.S. It's also the 6th deepest lake in the world, and it's almost completely clear because it's all snow runoff. It's a truly beautiful, beautiful place. The Sierra Nevadas run about 640 kilometers or 400 miles. But a little further north, we have the Cascades here. So this is a major mountain range in western North America and extends from British Columbia up here in Canada all the way through Washington and Oregon and into Northern California. It's really known for volcanoes. It's a very volcanic place. Mount Rainier, let's see if we can find Mount Rainier. Here it is prominent and very famous, and it has erupted since the 1400s, which I think everyone can be happy for. So it's got an elevation of 4,392 meters or 14,411 feet. And then not that far away, right over here, is Mount St. Helens. So prior to the eruption in 1980, which Mount St. Helens is very famous for, it had the shape of a conical volcano, kind of like a classic volcano look. And it's sometimes referred to as the Mount Fuji of America. But during that 1980 eruption, the upper 400 meters or 1,300 feet of the summit was removed by a huge debris avalanche, leaving a giant horseshoe-shaped crater that's now partially filled by a lava dome and a glacier. It's a lot smaller. Standing at 8,330 feet or 539 meters. It's primarily an explosive dacite volcano, and it's definitely been the most active Cascade volcano in recent time, which, by the way, that's about 12,000 years, if you're going by what geologists call recent time. It most recently erupted in 2008, and the U.S. Geological Survey rates its threat level for more eruptions as very high. I actually grew up in the western United States, and the 1980 eruption was before my time, and by my time I mean, being alive. But people, when I was a child, would talk about that eruption still, and the ash that just covered everything, and it made it dark like night. Well, not quite like night, but there was just an ash layer over everything, and would fall onto cars and houses and everything else. It was a big deal, and that was like hundreds and hundreds of miles away. So it was a heck of an explosion back then. So speaking of volcanoes, if you'd like to take a little trip here south with me into Mexico, the largely volcanic Sierra Madre Occidentals right here form the western border of the Mexican plateau. It has an average elevation of 2,400 to 2,700 meters, which is 8,000 to 9,000 feet of elevation, and it extends roughly 1,100 kilometers or 700 miles from north to south. It's part of the bigger Sierra, let me just tilt this a bit, the bigger Sierra Madre system, which consists of the Sierra Madre Occidental or west, the Sierra Madre Oriental or east, and the Sierra Madre del Sur or south. The ranges enclose the Great Central Mexican Plateau here. It's actually considered part of the Sierra Madre system, the plateau is. And its northern part up here is considered to be part of the Basin and Range province in the United States. So you can see where the border is, right along here. It's broken by blocks of mountain ranges and large ephemeral drainage basins called bolsones, or pockets. I'm going to read a little bit here. So according to Encyclopedia Britannica, the Mexican plateau is composed largely of uplifted and folded strata of the Mesozoic era, which was about 250 to 65 million years ago. Formations from the second half of the Mesozoic predominate among exposed rocks, but older sediments are widespread. The region's elevation, folding, and faulting were contemporaneous with the uplift of the Rocky Mountains. Early in the Cenozoic era, about the past 65 million years, great outpourings of lava terminated a long interval of weathering and erosion. Subsequently, the large plateau block was uplifted, the displacement being greater to the south than to the north. Its margins have been dissected into the deeply gouged angular landscape of the Sierra Madre Occidental and the more rounded but rugged terrain of the Sierra Madre Oriental. So now that we've made our way here, we're just coming back up a little, and you can see here these Rocky Mountains. So let's see some things we can learn about them. So the Rocky Mountains which you've often just heard called the Rockies, are the longest mountains, or the longest mountain chain range in North America. They stretch 4,800 kilometers, or 3,000 miles, from British Columbia up here in Canada down to New Mexico in the southwestern United States. So a lot of temperature change. Some famous mountains you might have heard here, like Pikes Peak, which people like to talk about. It's very popular. There's a lot of public lands you can go to and play. And there's Rocky Mountain National Park. I think maybe Teton National Park is also in here. And of course you can see the Continental Divide, where the rivers flow different ways. If we take a little trip over here to the east, first we'll go over all the very, very flat lands. No mountains here. In some places, not even a hill. If you're lucky, you'll come across a haystack. Give you a little elevation, right? We can come over here to the Appalachians. So this is the longest mountain chain in the eastern part of North America. It starts up here by the Canadian border, the US-Canadian border, in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. And they extend southwards toward the northern limits of Alabama, way down here. You might hear of different ranges in the US, might hear people talk, but they're really actually all pretty much sub-ranges of the Appalachians. So the Great Smoky Mountains, with their very highly visited national park. The Blue Ridge Mountains, absolutely beautiful, especially in fall. Go along the Blue Ridge Parkway. And the Green Mountains, and the White Mountains, and the Longfellow Mountains, and the Berkshires. So they're all part of the Appalachians. So in total, the Appalachians are 3,200 kilometers long, or about 2,000 miles. The highest peak in them is also the highest peak east of the Mississippi, which I think would be pretty obvious. And it's Mount Mitchell in North Carolina. And though it does apparently truly exist in the world, it does not exist on this globe. So we can't look at it together. However, it's 2,037 meters high, or 6,684 feet. One of the most popular features, or famous at least, of the Appalachians is the Appalachian Trail that goes from Georgia down here all the way up to Maine. And hiking that far is really a challenge because of weather differences and time, and you have to try to decide when to leave depending on sort of what weather factors you think will most affect you. I've had the opportunity to walk on just a little bit of it before, and I'll tell you, it wasn't planned. I was actually in a national park. Is that right? Was I in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park? Well, some sort of, publicly protected area for nature, and came across part of it and was able just to walk for a while on it. When I figured out how you could get access, it seemed like a shame not to spend some time there doing that. And then I've also had chances to walk various parts of the Pacific Crest Trail, which is back over here in the Sierras, which I think actually it goes into the Cascades too. It goes a long way. It might actually start in Mexico, the Pacific Crest Trail. But there's a lot of places you can access that, because of course it too, excuse me, I've got a little globe on my finger, is very long. So that's just a little bit about mountains here in North America. I will say it really takes a globe to appreciate how unstraight the earth is. So in our imaginary globe world, one side of this is very bright and one side's very dark, just like the real earth. God has truly blessed us with some incredibly beautiful places to enjoy. It is exciting to get up every day to know there's more to see, since there'll hardly be time to see them all. Way up in Alaska, down through Canada, down through the US and Mexico, and from Canada to the deep south over here. When we were talking about volcanoes in the Cascades, it reminded me, so I've never seen any lava here in the Cascades, though I've been several times, but let's see, can you see it here? I did go to the Big Island here in Hawaii, specifically to go to Volcanoes National Park, and I did get to see actual lava erupting out of a volcano, and it was one of the most exciting things for me. I've always wanted to see that. It was just incredible. And so I'll leave you here until we go on our next journey together. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this and found it peaceful, and that it inspired you to imagine how great and beautiful God, the Creator, must be, if this is what the creation looks like. Go to sleep now. Have a good rest on this incredible sphere.